That is actually fun. It's funny that you asked it because I was very, very close to signing with Lev for the 2025 season. But I weighed in my pros and cons and decided that EG would be best for me because
Hey guys, this is Pedro back with another interview, this time covering VCT Americas Stage 1 2025 in week 1. My guest at this time is none other than Supamen of Evil Geniuses, coming off of their victory over 2 Game Esports to start off 1-0 in the group stage of said station. So Supamen, gotta give my thanks to you for this conversation, this opportunity for an interview. I'm sure you already know how I do this kind of thing. Coming out of it with a W to start off the year, how are you feeling?
feeling great. Already, like my last year, my rookie year, we started out was in 03, I think, and then before we find our first win against Sentinels. But learning from those losses from last year and applying it to this year, we knew that we have to start hot. We gotta, we can't let our faith, our thing, fate falls into the hands of others and hoping, like at the end before playoffs, like we hope that this team will beat this guy so that we can make it to playoffs. So this whole year, we're preparing for everything, making sure that we're on top of stuff, and just going into this game strong.
Yeah, you kind of described it as such the state of evil geniuses from last year because obviously, like, given how the team was formed at the start of 2024, you kind of guys had a little bit of time to just sort of retool or more so tool everything together and be at a final form. You guys had to wait like literally at the start of the middle of the season to finally ramp things up, but
Yep.
ultimately it was all a little too late. But to start off this season, this stage with a W and just be on the right foot. How important was it then for yourself, Superman, to have to like start off with the W and finish this game because like this game features against you guys with 2G and it was a team that many people looked at as like the basement team, of course in quotation marks. So how important was it to start off with the W against this team?
Honestly, it's definitely very important to get a W against Suji to start off our year. We're a new team, right? We kept the core, but we have two new players, so we're still building that team chemistry and trust amongst each other. So being able to close out this game 2-0 against Sushi meant a lot for us to start. And obviously, we still have a lot of things to work on, but every team in VCT Americas, like you said, people think 2G as the bottom of the tier, bottom, whatever. Like they should be a free win, when you go against them and stuff like that. But honestly, if you're in VCT Americas, you should not be taken lightly because on any good day, any team can beat any team, and I strongly believe that. So going into this game against Fuji, we did not underestimate them. We did not listen to whatever people have to say, but we knew that we're gonna go into this game and 2-0 them no matter what because we know that we're capable.
I mean, I believe like the commenters were talking about the 2G's performance during the actual series about how, that second half in Hayden was probably the strongest that we've seen out of that team so far in this season. And so I want to tie that into just sort of how it was from your point of view, just having to, try to stave off of 2G's momentum in Haven and, continuing that momentum for your side into map 2. And so what I want to ask you is, what do you feel was the biggest obstacle that 2G showed, from that time frame that you guys were able to neutralize from that point onwards into the very end?
Honestly, Juji had a pretty strong game plan on their T side anyway. But we played against that comp, in scrims and practices and stuff like that. So we know the strengths and weaknesses of it, and I don't think we were able to demonstrate um our anti, against that comp in a very good fashion on our defense side. And so it was like it started snowballing because the one around he had this the ISO was able to farm so many ults, and it started snowballing into the end where we kind of like stabilize and finally close it out. and and that I think being able to close out map one was what carried us into map two, right? Because if they were able to take map one into overtime, they would have felt much more confident, and stuff like that. And that, given their map pick, it could have gone south, in map 2.
And it is such that you guys are starting off this stage with a 1-1-1-0 record. Hopefully, this momentum can continue on over into the rest of this season. And so, I kind of want to piggyback onto one topic that you mentioned at the start of this conversation, given the comparisons between 2024 and 2025. And I want to tie that into just sort of the arrival of IC and Ye to the team. But like, I want to ask you, just sort of on top of just having to insert these two players into the EG core, what do you feel has been the biggest takeaways that you had from absorbing the failures of 2024, not making champs, not making masters, and then using that to 2025, just having to make sure that at the very least, uh, such issues won't happen again in this year.
Yeah, I mean, like, we can only hope that it won't happen again, right? Because like mistakes happen and stuff like that. So going having to replace, Jogamo and Epoth, right? Jogamo was a big losing him was definitely did had a very negative impact on our team. Because he's such a talented player. We know what he's capable of. So losing him was pain. But I see he's very smart. As a player, and in and outside of the game. So having to insert him and Gay into our core, it 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 took some time. It took some time because everyone had different ideas of what they want to do and stuff like that. So, and again, I mentioned that we're still like building that trust, right, amongst the core and the two new players. So it's definitely I don't know how to say this. It has taken some time, and we're starting to see that trust in game, in the server. So all I can, like, each game, each match, I tell them, guys, we got to give our 200% here, no matter what. At the end of the game, we cannot have any regrets in the server. Like, we can't leave the game with any regrets, and that's the most important thing to take away from 2024, because we did have a lot of, I should have done this. I could have had that, after those losses last year. And so this year, we're coming in, we follow the game plan, we see it through all the way to the end.
Mm. One other side topic that I want to ask you regarding, the transition from 2024 to 2025 that features yourself is, and I'll say this from like with the thought in mind that you can kind of like correct me if I'm wrong, just sort of do that stuff. But like it was seen like in a few content pieces from other teams that like you were trialing with other teams. It comes to mind in which Leviathan was like showing like a graphic for like the arrival of EA or Demon One, can't remember, but it showed like your name onto like the list of like the foods offered in the menu, and so it just sort of gives me the sense that like you were trying with other teams in the lead up to 2025. Obviously, that ended up with you returning to EG. And so, what I want to ask you, Superman, is amidst that kind of time of the off season, trying to figure out your direction for 2025, what made you want to stick with EG at the very end of the day and just having to, trust the process with that squad?
Yes, sir. That is actually fun. It's funny that you asked it, because I was very, very close to signing with Lev for the 2025 season. But I weighed in my pros and cons and decided that EG would be best for me, because like it's just me leaving the core to join another core, right? Whereas I already have chemistry with the current core in EG, and so like we're just gonna be building on top of what we already have in 2024. So I preferred that over having joining a new core and then doing the same thing basically. But and with EG, I know what Coach Potter is capable of, and I really enjoy working under her. So you know, at the end, I thought that it would be the best option for me.
No, for sure. Definitely appreciate the insight onto that rationale from that time. Really appreciate that, Superman. What looking at the road ahead for stage one, you finally were able to take down 2G, get that first victory under your belts, and have that momentum over to the rest of your respective group, which contains the likes of Sentinels and 100 Thieves, which, by the way, are going to be the teams that you're going to be facing later on down the line, probably next week and stuff like that. And so, what's the confidence level for yourself and also the rest of the squad in continuing the momentum and try to take down such teams and also those that I haven't mentioned yet?
Yeah, I mean, like Sentinels, Hunter Thieves, they're just another team in our group, right? Like we treat every team with the same amount of respect and stuff like that. We don't see them, any differently. We're gonna do our preparations like for just for them, just like any other team, right? So we're gonna come in these games strong, confident, and believe that we can beat them because we can. And yeah.
Course, short, sweet, and concise, which is definitely understandable and fitting for a professional like yourself, Superman. So that's it. I'm going to wrap up the interview right here. Thank you so much, Superman, for another interview. Hopefully, I can do another one with you later on down the line. And of course, best of luck goes to the rest of EG and most importantly for yourself.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this.